Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. This is the Airfix Aston Martin DB5 in 1/43 scale. And this is what we're going to build today. So, let's get on with it. So yes, this is the Airfix Aston Martin DB5. And I have picked this for a very specific reason. We're going to do something that I don't know if we've ever really done on the channel before. We're going to try and make this shiny. Which is going to be hilarious. Now, to quote Derek Beery, shiny things frighten me. So I'm kind of... but I figured this would be a good option because it's not particularly big at 1/43 scale, but it's also not so small that it's going to be impossible to work with. So this is what we're going to use. So let's have a quick talk about the kit. This is one of the starter sets from Airfix. Now I've quietly have fairly high hopes for this, and that is because I don't know if you can see that, but it says Model Design and Tooling 2023. So this is a new kit. So and it comes with the paints and brushes like always. This came from Hobbycraft, I think, as you can see, and yeah, I just think this would be a good candidate. So let's get out of the box and have a look at it. Right, there's our paints and things. I'm going to leave them there for a minute because we're going to talk about those in a minute. There's the brush, the one they always give you, the Humbrol size 2. These are really handy, these brushes. I always keep these. I've got loads of them, they're great. So there's that. Right, let's have a look at the paperwork. Before you start, tools that may help you build the model. That's actually quite useful, I like that. Gives you like basic instructions on how to build it. That's a good idea. Yeah. Hold small parts with tweezers. Test fit parts before applying, yes. Don't use too much glue. This is actually good advice for a beginner. I like that. Anyway, I'll get that to one side. Right. Although the criteria for a car to be described as one of the world's top supercars will always be to some debate, surely few would argue that the Aston Martin DB5 should be among this group. A luxury grand tourer which may have been the product of an Italian design team, but is for the very essence of British sophistication and style. The DB5, built on the impressive success of its predecessor, the DB4, and between 1963 and 65, presented the motoring world with one of the most desirable cars ever produced. With pure driving pleasure at its heart, the Aston Martin DB5 was fast, powerful and refined, but most of all was beautiful to look at. With its iconic front profile and eye-catching spoked wheels, this product of the 1960s can still hold its own with any modern classic. And if you arrived at an event in one of these beauties, you would definitely be the centre of attention. It's very true. Yeah. There we go. Anyway, let's have a look. Oh, colour plans. Oh, that's interesting. So what they've done is they've showed you like the contact points for the parts. It's basically showing you where to put the glue. That's actually really good. Again, for a starter kit, that's a great idea. I'm quite impressed with this Airfix. Well done. Obviously, we'll see what the actual model's like, but yeah, I like that. The fact that it actually shows you where to apply the glue. That's very cool. I like that. Anyway, that's enough of that. There should be some decals somewhere. What have I done with them? Did they fall out of the box? Oh, no, they're still in the box. Oh, come here. So, yes, there are some decals. There's not many, and they're all tiny. So what we have is the number plates. I think that's the speedometer, or the gauges, and then the actual Aston Martin badges, which are absolutely tiny, so they're going to be hilarious. But I've got an idea for how we can put those on. I've got a brilliant new set of tweezers that might work for those. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's have a look at the actual model itself. Let's get this out of the bag. Plastic bags. Oh, but, you know, what you're going to do. Right. Oh. All right, let's get. So there's our glass, which looks Okay. Oh, the front windows must be open. Okay. Oh, look what they've done there. I don't know if you can see that. They've actually moulded the wiper arms off the bottom of the windscreen. That's actually quite clever. I like that. I mean, I dread to think what that's going to be like in a few years when the moulds start to wear out, but certainly for now, that's pretty cool. All right, okay, let's put those to one side so I don't lose them. So let's have a look at this. Now, as I said, I'm expecting good things from this because this is a brand new kit. So I'm not expecting any flashing, any mould lines or anything like that. Well, that dashboard looks nice. That's very cool. Oh, it's got the pedals moulded in as well. Can you see that? That's great. Spare wheel carrier underneath. So the interior is both simple and detailed at the same time, which is kind of funny. We're going to do the interior black. We'll get onto the colours and whatnot in a minute. Oh, there are the door panels. Those are nice. I mean, you would expect it to look nice. Look at that grille. Wow. Yeah, this should be pretty good. Right. Oh, look! I see what they've done with the wheels here. So they've moulded the tyre in two parts, and it's the back half of the tyre is part of the wheel, and then the front half fits over it, which means you can paint the wheels and tyres separately and then put the wheels on. I like that. That's actually very clever. That's your engine and gearbox and exhaust. That's a nice detail there. You see that? That was one of the differences between the DB4 and the DB5. The DB5 had 4 silencers to make it a bit more refined. So they added 2 extra silencers to the exhaust. Okay. Bumpers look good. Seats look all right. Right, now the most important thing is the body. I'll get the camera in so you can see the body a bit better. Hang on. Right, let's have a look at this body. Because I say, this is what's going to be the focus really of what we're doing. Oh, there's a little something there. What's that? Where are my glasses? Where have I put my glasses? Oh, there they are. Right, what is that? That looks like, damn it. Oh, look, there's a mould line right there. Oh, and there's a bit of flash in that. That is nasty. I don't know what this is here. That looks badly moulded, to be honest. Because if you compare those two halves, something's gone amiss there. That's not good. That looks like damage. That's bad moulding. But that looks bad. We should be able to clean that up, hopefully, but I'm kind of disappointed with that. But apart from that, it doesn't look terrible. It's even got the keyholes in the door handles. Okay, there's a scratch on the back there. Oh, and there's some mould lines there as well. Let me get something pointy. See if I can catch it with a light. You see there, mould lines there, and the same on the other side. So we'll have to get rid of those. But that's not terrible. Now, the thing is with this, we need before we go any further, we need to talk about paint and colours and things like that, and how to paint something. Now, I am not a bodywork expert. I have done bodywork in the past, but I am by no means an expert. In fact, actually, I'll tell you what I might do. While I'm talking, I might start polishing this. Where are my... There they are. Oh, grief. I have a set of these little polishing pads in a variety of grits down to, I love how it says 1500 is coarse, but it goes down to 12,000 grit. But we'll probably go for one in the middle somewhere. But anyway, that's beside the point. But what I was going to say, as I said, I want to talk about painting. Now, anybody who does bodywork will tell you that if you want a good result, preparation is everything. And this is why I am doing this now. Preparation is key. Because it's like, if you have marks like that on it, they will show through the paint. And you'll never get a good result. And it's all about not just the preparation of the body, but also the in-between layers of paint. So there's a process called blocking, where you apply a coat of paint and then you rub it down. What you have to remember when you're spraying paint is you are effectively spraying particles of paint onto something. And so it's not a vapor as such. There are particles, and those particles will start to dry as soon as they hit the air. And in some cases, some of those particles will dry before they hit what you're painting. And that's why quite often, if you look very closely at a spray painted surface, it looks almost powdery. And so what you have to do is, in between each coat, you need to block it and sand it and get rid of that kind of powdery finish. And I'll show you that in a minute when we put the primer on this. When it comes to preparation, I want to tell you a little story. Many years ago, I used to run a garage. We used to do recovery, and we used to move vehicles around for people. And one time I was given a job of moving a car for a chap, and it was going to be painted. He was restoring it himself, and he was taking it to be painted. And this was a 1957 Pontiac Super Chief. Looks fairly similar to a Chevy, like a Tri-5 Chevy. And he was restoring it himself, but he'd farmed out the painting to someone else. And I had to take the car from his house to the workshop where it's going to be painted and then bring it back again. And the guy had done an amazing job on the preparation. He had stripped the car down to a bare body shell, and every speck of rust had been fixed, inside and out. Anything rotten had been cut out and replaced, and anything rusty had been treated, polished, and brought back to original. And I thought, that's a bit excessive. But then when I went back a few months later, and it was a few months later, and I picked up the finished result, I could see why. Now, this was a long, long time ago. This was maybe 30, 35 years ago. So the details are a little hazy. If I recall correctly, the guy who painted its name was Wilf something. I think Wilf Stacy, I think. The company was called, I say company, it was like a one-man band, but it was called Burster Speed and Colour. And he did bodywork, painting, and also customization. And you know what? I have never seen a paint job so perfect. And perfect is the only word I can describe it. I've never seen a paint job so smooth. It was like glass. And I spoke to the guy and I was like, how on earth did you do this? And he told me the process, and I'll just, TLDR it for you. But he basically, again, aside from taking everything down to the bare metal, he then spent weeks straightening every panel by hand. Because this guy had given him the car and basically said, money is no option. I want it to look perfect. So this guy was a master at bodycraft, and he had straightened every panel by hand with a hammer and dolly until they were just mirror smooth. Sanded the car bare metal, and it had I think he told me it was 6 coats of primer, obviously all hand flatted in between, then 8 color coats, all hand flatted in between. It was pink, by the way. It looked beautiful. It was such a good color for this car. And then I think he had 12 clear coats, again all hand flatted and then polished. And honestly, you look down the side of this car and it was like a mirror. I've never seen a paint job as good as that. That's not what we're going to do here, by the way. But it's just to give you an idea of what you can achieve if you are prepared to put in the work. And obviously have the skill and everything. So, but it's really difficult to get right into that little groove there. Maybe I need to come at it from this angle a bit. Although, I think we might have got it. There's a little bit there on that tail light as well. But yeah, this is why I'm doing this, is because I want to get this body as good as I can before we try and even think about putting paint on it. Because I say like that, I mean, look at it. That's going to stick out like a carrot in an omelette. Which is probably a phrase unfamiliar to many of you. So anyway, aside from all of that, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the colour that we're going to use on this car. Now, obviously the most famous colour for a DB5 is silver birch, because that's what colour Bond's car was. The funny thing is, I did a little reading on this subject, and of the 1,000 and something, slightly over 1,000 cars, DB5s that were built, there were very few of these built. Less than 10% of them were actually silver from the factory, or silver birch. Most of them were other colours. And then they used a silver birch DB5 in one of the Bond films. And then after that, everybody wanted silver. And it is now estimated by people who would know that more than half of the remaining DB5s are now silver birch, usually with a black interior. Again, that's what the Bond car is. That's what we're going to do on this, a black interior. Now, silver birch is a funny colour because it's not, strictly speaking, silver. It's more of a silver grey. I don't have a colour for that. That's what I was going to talk to you about these for. Because one of the colours they give you in here, they give you 2 pots of, they give you a pot of black. There's a brown in there to do the interior, but they also give you, oh, what was the name of it? I had to look it up, what colour it is. It's US Gull Grey Satin. It's Humbrol colour 129, if you're interested. So that's the colour they give you for the body. So it's, again, they actually give you a grey, because that's what colour these are. They're not technically silver, they're a silver grey. They are most definitely not, as any Aston Martin aficionado will tell you, metallic silver. Having said that, this one probably will be. Because, you know, I have a picture in my head of what this car should look like, and it should be silver, like metallic silver. So that's what we're going to do. And if you don't like it, build your own. But yeah, I just found it interesting that how many of these cars were actually other colours, blues and reds and all sorts. But they're now all silver because everybody wants a Bond car. But anyway, that's beside the point. We'll get more onto colours and everything later. That is a big divot in there. We might have to put a bit of filler in that. Okay. Let's see if we can polish this scratch out of the boot lid as well. Actually, that's coming out quite nicely. This may seem like a lot of faff, but believe me, it will make all the difference when it comes to actually painting this thing. Right, that's got rid of that. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do with this. This is going to need filling as well. What did I do with that knife? Right, let's get rid of this. This is really bad. For a new model like this, this is really bad. Right, let's just scrape the worst of that off. The reason I'm doing this on camera, I should say as well, is the fact that I wasn't actually expecting to be doing this. But I've actually had a few people ask about like how to prepare a model. And so I thought what I would do, I was actually going to pick a bad model and build it to do this, and I may still do that. Oh, actually, hopefully a lot of this is flashing. So there is flashing on this, which is not great considering it's technically a brand new model. And I'm just wondering if maybe this was just like a badly cast one, or whether they're all like this. If anyone else has built one of these, let me know if it's the same, because most of it is really good. It's only this little bit at the front that's bad. But this is basically how I get rid of this kind of stuff. I don't normally show this, but I say I've had people say, well, how do you do it? How do you get, you know, how do you get those results? And it's like, well, like this. But this is the tedious bit, which, as you all know from previous rants, you shouldn't really have to go through, but we all do. I would say, actually, if anybody wants to see more of this kind of thing, I did have an idea. I've not actually brought it to fruition yet. But if anybody's interested in this, like this side of things, like how to prep the parts and things like that, then I might do a video that kind of focuses more on that. So again, comment if that's something you would like, or indeed if you wouldn't like to see it. Like I said, the main purpose of this channel is to show you how I do things, and maybe give you a few ideas for things you might want to try yourself. What I don't want to do here is distort the body line too much, so I'm just being very careful around these edges not to round them over too much. But the other thing you want to avoid as well, if you can, is sharp edges, because paint won't stick to a sharp edge. So if there is a sharp edge, you want to kind of just knock it off slightly. Just to, if the edge is slightly rounded, the paint will stick to it a lot better. Oh, this is going to be awful to get rid of this. That is an awful seam right there. That is really bad. And I say it's bad because this is a new kit. You know, like I say, with a 2023 tooling date, this is not good. And again, it's a starter kit. You know, I really think that these starter kits should be held to a much higher standard. Because I say, if you're buying a very complex kit, you kind of expect to do this kind of thing. But when this is something that you're supposed to be able to just build straight out of the box to get people into this hobby, this is not the way to go about it. Might have to knock some of those edges off there in those wheel arches as well. Again, they're not bad, but it's a very sharp edge. and we just want to get rid of that so that the paint will stick better. But yeah, seriously, Airfix, Humbrol, you need to do better at this. I mean, all of the manufacturers do, to be honest. I'm not singling out, you know, Humbrol or Airfix for criticism here. They're all as bad as each other. People wonder why I never get asked to do sponsored content for models. It's because I like telling people the truth. But anyway. Right. I think we might have got that. Okay. Right. So I need to put a little touch of filler in there, which is going to be really awkward because it's right next to the fuel filler cap. Oh, there's another little mould line there. Right. See if I can catch it with the light. Yeah, there we go, right there, you see? I can actually catch it with the tip of the knife. Oh dear, and it was all going so well. There's a little bit in there. I think we can polish that out. I say normally I wouldn't go this mad with this, but for the sake of what we're doing, you can actually hear that blade as it crosses the, like, clicking as it goes across. Yeah, there's a little bit right there in the corner. And I think there's a seam. Yeah, there is. Again, let me see if I can catch it with a light. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there is a seam that runs right down the top of the wing, which I'm fairly sure is not on the original car. That's better. Right, oh, there's a bit more. I mean, what we'll do is once we've got a coat of primer on this, we'll have another look at it, because it'll, once you put primer on, these things tend to show up more. So let me put a coat of primer on this, and that will just be our usual high coat grey primer. And then we'll have another look at it and see if there's anything that we missed. Right, so I've given this a coat of primer, as you can see, and I've actually found a few more spots here. So there's another mould line right there, and there's a fainter one on the other side, and also on the I don't know if I'll actually show you that or not. Here on the underside of the windscreen, the top of the windscreen opening, there's some that's not been moulded properly. This part I did manage to clean up at the front. That was mostly just flashing, so that actually cleaned up okay. But I'm going to have to keep cleaning this. I think hopefully you can probably see that a bit better, but you can see there's like a seam all the way across that's not right. So I need to clean this up, clean this side. Aside from that, I think we're kind of not too bad. The other problem that I need to clean up are these surrounds on the headlights. You can see, oh, there's still a bit of a line there I need to clean. But around here, you can see this hasn't molded properly. So it's not right. But the way to clean something like that is just take the tip of your knife and just very, very carefully get in there and just very gently scrape it.
And I mean very, very gently scrape it. And just gently remove the excess and reform that, like, oh, I'm trying to do it under the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing. But just very gently scrape it away. Like that, you see. So I will continue working on this and clean it up. But the other thing that I want to talk about, and this goes back to what I was saying about the paint finish. This looks pretty smooth, but if you actually run your finger across, you can feel it. It feels rough. And so what you do is you take, again, a very fine sanding pad or something like that, and just very lightly go over it, and you can actually see the lines in it, and that's because it's not smooth. And just very lightly go over it like that. I'm barely touching the surface. And that now feels smooth. And you can see how it's changed colour. So, again, just very, very lightly go over it. And you can actually hear it. You can hear the change in the sound it makes. And that is now much, much smoother. So I will now spend an inordinate amount of time finishing up, cleaning up these bits. And I'll give it probably another coat of primer, rub it down again. And then we might be able to start thinking about putting some colour on it. But what I also want to do is test fit some of the parts, like the windows and that, before I go too much further with it. But let me clean up these bits and we'll go from there. Right, well, I think I've got this pretty much cleaned up now. I gave it another coat of primer, and I have flattened it, this time with another one of these sanding pads. This one is 6000 grit, so that's all nice and smooth and flat now. I could have spent longer on it, but I just want to give you an idea. And what I am been doing is I've just been test fitting the windows and the grill. And I have to say, and this is something I want to stress, I'm not just trying to rag on Airfix for the state of this kit. Yes, it does have some issues, but on the same score, to give them credit where it's due, it's very, very highly detailed for the size of it. And also, for example, I just test fitted the grill, and that just fits perfectly, so that's good. Also, the rear windows, the one thing I'm not too keen about the rear windows, and I don't know if you can see that, they're not very flat. The actual back window is fine, but the side quarters are a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. But the nice thing is, they actually fit really, really well. So you just pop them in, and they just now I can't get them in. There we go. And they just snap into place. He says, as they don't snap into place. But there you go. You see, honestly, you don't even need to glue them. They're quite happily just sit there. And also the windscreen, I cleaned out that little bit of flashing there was in the opening, and this windscreen also fits really well. It's a fantastic fit. And again, just to reiterate what I said before, the fact that they've molded in the windscreen wiper arms, I think is a fantastic detail. So, you know, hats off to Airfix for that. They've done a good job on this. I think this is the thing that's annoying about it, is the fact that it's a pretty good kit that's being let down by a few like minor details, like the mold lines and things. But on the whole, it's actually pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start painting the body. Obviously that's the main thrust of what we're doing here. Now for the I don't know how much I'm going to show of doing the rest of the car, because quite frankly most of the rest of the car is just going to be black. The underside, the interior and everything is all just going to be black with maybe some minor detailing. But this, obviously, the main thrust of this is the body. So, with that in mind, let me show you what paint I'm going to use. Right, this is, I think I've shown you this before. This is one of Vallejo's sets. This is the metallic set. And you get aluminium, silver, chrome, steel, gold, brass, bronze, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. You also get some really weird ones. There's rust, fluorescent red, and gunship grey and wood. But, that's fine. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this metallic silver for the body. And we do also, there's obviously some chrome bits, so we'll use that for the chrome bits, the bumpers and whatnot. And then we'll use aluminium for the engine and the exhaust. These all look very similar, to be fair, but you know, it is what it is. So those are the main colours we'll be using, and then we'll use, you know, various other things for the other bits. But I think what I'm going to do now is just give this one final quick going over, just to make sure I haven't missed anything, which I probably have. And then we are going to basically give it a coat of this metallic silver. I know it's not supposed to be metallic, but it'll be fine. So we'll do that next. Right, so that's the body, as good as I'm going to get it, I think, quite frankly. So now we're going to give it a coat of this Vallejo metallic silver. See what that looks like. Just as an aside as well, don't forget, if you're doing this particular model, to do the bottom of the body as well, because this is actually part of the bodywork. So we'll paint this as well. I'll give it the same treatment. I'll probably do this bit off camera, but I'll give it the same treatment, and so that it obviously matches the body. So there you can actually see how kind of rough that surface is. But let me get this painted and dried, and then I'll show you how we're going to flatten that out. Right, so there we are. That's our first coat of silver on. And I don't think that looks too bad, like colour-wise. It's not very metallic, if that makes sense. But if we look at this carefully, and I'm hoping the camera will pick this up, but you can see how rough that surface is. It's not smooth at all. And this is, again, just a byproduct of airbrushing. You can kind of limit that by spraying a thinner mix and spraying it very wet. But that's time consuming and problematic of its own kind. But what we're going to do is we'll let this dry for a couple of hours. And then we'll basically flat it with some very, very fine grit sandpaper, and then we'll give it another coat. But as I say, you can see there's kind of like an orange peely effect on it. And also, I don't know if you can see, there's a couple of little bits where stuff's stuck to the paint. So, like, for example, I've got to do this without touching the paint now. Right there, I don't know if you can, I'll see if I get the light to catch it. But there's a little bit there. There's another one on top of the wing over here. So we need to get rid of those as well. So like I say, we'll let this dry for a couple of hours, and then we'll sand it, and then we'll give it another coat and see what that looks like. But not a bad start. Right, this has had plenty of time to dry now, and like I said, you can kind of see that kind of orange peely effect on the roof there. I mean, it's all over, but it's probably more obvious on the roof. So I've got my finer sanding pad again. This one is the 6000 grit, and we're just going to lightly go over it, and it is very lightly going over it, and it will discolor. But what we want to do is just basically just flatten that paint a bit, and just try and get rid of the rough spots that kind of rough texture. We don't want to go mad with it because we don't want to go like blow through the paint. So, but you'll see, I don't know if the camera's actually picking that up or not, but you can see it's kind of gone grey on the top. So where the high spots are, they're kind of going grey, and that's fine. We just want to smooth it off, and I'll go over the whole car and do this. And then once that's done, we'll give it another coat of the silver and see what that looks like. Right, while we're waiting for that paint to dry on the body, we're going to start looking at some of the other details just very quickly, like the wheels and the grille, which we're going to give a dry brush with this Citadel chainmail, just to pick out the spokes. And we're just going to do this very lightly and then build it up, because what we don't want to do is put too much on. You can always add more, but you can't take it off again. As you can see, that's starting to pick out the highlights of the wheels. That's the nice thing about actually how they, I think I mentioned this before, but how they've done this, it basically lends itself perfectly to this type of process, which makes me wonder if that's why they did it. It's entirely possible. Like I said, there are some issues with this kit, but for the most part they've actually done a fairly good job of it. There you go, that doesn't look too bad, does it? I'll just keep working at these like that. But what I'm also going to do, and I'll just show you that quickly before I move on, is we're going to do the same thing on this grille here. So I've just, these have basically just been rattle canned black, which is what I've done with most of the parts. So we'll just go over this grille and do the same thing, you see, and we just want to just go over it very, very lightly and repeatedly to pick out the detail of the grille. And we want to try and do it from multiple angles so that we get into all the little nooks and crannies. Like that, you see. Make sure we get right down into all the corners and edges. Like that. So I'll do the rest of these, and there's a couple of other bits we're going to do with these afterwards as well. Right, turning our attention back to the body. This paint's dried now. And you can see that looks a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start with our clear coats, and we're going to use this high coat clear lacquer. So I'll give this a quick spritz, and you'll see that it will change colour, and it will actually turn grey. Now, once that's dry, it should come back to a silvery colour again. But if it stays kind of grey, that's not the end of the world, because obviously it will probably match the original colour better, but we'll see how it goes. Right, there we go. And you can see that's kind of gone grey, but that's all right. When that lacquer cures, this will go back to being silver again. So I'm now going to leave this until tomorrow to give this lacquer a chance to get properly, you know, cured, and then we'll see what kind of a finish we've got, and then we'll apply the decals before we apply the second coat of clear. So we'll leave that, and I'm going to put something over it so that no dust settles on it overnight. Right, so it is the next day. Excuse the little bit of noise in the background, I've got both printers running. So this is now obviously completely cured, and I think that looks pretty good for a first coat. I was actually going to rub this down, but honestly, I don't know if it needs it. I'm just running my hands over it, and it feels perfectly smooth. There is a little bit of orange peeling there, but I think that's actually from the silver, which you'll notice, by the way, the silver color has come back like I said it would. So if you remember, when we first sprayed this, it went gray. But the silver does come back. It's one of the nice things about these Vallejo paints. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the put these decals on. This is going to be hilarious. Look how tiny they are. That's what this is. This is my wax burner. I've got a little bit of warm water there. So we'll try and put these decals on, and then we'll give it another clear coat. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how well that goes. I was toying with the idea before I put another clear coat on of actually putting some panel line on the doors and that to kind of highlight those door trims a little, the door gaps a little bit. But I've been looking at photos of DB5s, and one of the things about them that they're kind of, I was going to say notorious, but more kind of famous for, is how well the panels fit together. And it's like when you look at a lot of photos of these Aston Martins, you actually can't see the door gaps and the bonnet gaps and things like that. So I think I'll probably leave it. The one thing that did occur to me looking at these pictures as well, and I'm kind of a bit annoyed at myself, I don't really want to do it now, but I didn't do anything with this, the bonnet vent, because if you look at a real Aston Martin, you can see there's like a distinct black hole of that vent in the bonnet, and I should have like used a knife or something and actually like scraped that away so that I could actually create that black vent, because it does create a very distinctive like shadow line on the bonnet. But it's too, well, I mean, it's not too late, but I don't really want to have to basically repaint the whole thing, so we'll leave that for now. But something to keep in mind if you're doing one of these is you might want to clean that out. I'm just wondering if maybe I can do something with it, but I don't quite know what. But we'll see. But yes, so decals are the next step. So let's see what kind of hilarity we can have with this. I'll just put one on just to show you, and then I'll do the rest off camera. So I've got me Mr. Mark's setter, although I don't know how much of that we're going to need, quite frankly. These decals are tiny. I was just going to demonstrate putting one of the number plates on, but I think that's a bit of a cop out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the one of these Aston Martin badges on the bonnet. I can't even see it. Where are my glasses? This is ridiculous. Yeah, they are absolutely tiny. There is actually like a little raised bit molded into the plastic. Let's see how this goes, because I'm just wondering if we're actually going to be able to get this decal to sit flat, but we'll see. So we'll just nip this off and see how this goes. Now what I am going to do, I've got this set that I think I showed you this before, but this has some very, very tiny tweezers. So we're going to try and use those, because I think they will help. Because as you can see, these tweezers are absolutely minute. So, right, let's try this out. I can't even see which way up it goes. That way. Right. So let's just put that in the water for a second. And then we'll try and put a little tiny dot of... Oh, the lid's stuck. Oh, good grief. Oh, there we go. We'll try and put a little tiny drop of this on. Oh, God. That's way too much. That is way too much. And there we go. Right, now let's see if we can do this. Because you see, the problem is, I don't know if you can see that, it's got quite a surround. Oh, it won't. Oh, there we go. That's it. Oh God, that went straight on. That doesn't look too bad, actually. Now, this is going to be the really fun bit. Is trying to get that to stay put. Because when I roll this over this, it's probably just going to come straight off and stick to the cotton bud. But we'll see. Blimey, I think we did it. Wonderful stuff. Oh, I'm really happy with that. So now I've got to put the badges on the sides here, one on each side. Another one of those tiny badges that goes on the top here. The number plate, and then there's a badge that goes on the back as well. So I'll put all those on and then give it another coat of lacquer, and we'll leave it to dry and see what that looks like. Right, so it is the following day again, and the second coat of lacquer has dried, and I was going to polish it, but you know what, I don't think it even needs it. I mean, I'm trying to get the light to catch it, but that looks pretty smooth to me. There's no orange peeling in the clear at all. There is some orange peeling in the silver, unfortunately. I could have done a better job of flattening that, but the trouble is, I don't think it's going to get any better than this. Short of stripping it right back and doing it again, it's not going to get any better. So what I'm going to do now is do a few finishing touches on this bodywork. So I'm going to do the lights. So I've got these clear, so I've got orange and red. You can see the difference in the new bottles and the old bottles. So I'll do the rear lights and the front indicators with those. And then I'm going to do some of the chrome work, a little bit of chrome on it as well. But we'll do that in a minute. So for this, for these lights, we'll just use this orange clear for the indicators. Like that. It just needs a little dab. So I load up the brush quite heavily and then just apply it like that. Make sure we get the underside as well. Like that. And then we'll do the back as well. Hang on. The top one is the indicator. Oh dear. Like that. And then we'll do the middle one is red, so I'll do that. And then we're going to do some of the chrome work. Right, that's the lights done. They're not great, but they're not terrible. So for the chrome, I'm going to use this Molotov liquid chrome pen. I've got a set of these, 1mm, 2mm and 4mm tip. This is the 1mm. Oh, there we go. Now this is going to be hilarious trying to do this without getting it everywhere, but we will do what we can as ever. So we want to do this here. Oh, try and do it under the camera, and you just want to very lightly touch it on, because you don't want it to go everywhere. Just like that, you see. And I'm going to do the edge of the door handle like that, and then we'll do the other side. And you really don't want to touch this once it's on, because it will ruin it. I'm not sure how well the camera is actually picking this stuff up, but it looks very good in person, trust me. Right, and the other thing I'm going to try and do, and I really don't know how well this is going to work, is I'm going to try and do these headlight surrounds. Oh, right. I'm going in, wish me luck. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. Let's do this one. Right, there we go. Phew. Right, we'll put that to one side. And the other thing I want to try and do, and I don't know if this is going to work or not, is I want to try and do these wiper arms on the windscreen. I don't know how well this is going to stick to this clear plastic, but we'll give it a go and we'll see. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. As I say, they've gone to the effort of adding these and done a pretty good job of it. So the least we can do is try and give them some colour. There we go. Looks right, that. Now let's try and get the wiper blades. Oh. There we go. That's not bad at all. Right, I've got to try to put this down now without it going everywhere. So I'm just going to leave that there to dry for a minute. There's a couple of details I'm going to do on the inside as well. Let's just try and put this to one side. Just a couple of little bits. I'm just going to do these door handles. Just like that, just give it a little splash of colour. I did a few bits on the dashboard as well. The other thing I did, just to show you, is on the wheels. I didn't do the spokes, but I just did the edge of the rim and then the wheel nut, and I think that looks all right. So I think we're now ready to start putting this thing together. So we'll do that next. Right, I'm just assembling the wheels. I'm using this Revel contactor. And I'm just putting a bead of glue around the whole thing. Like that. And then we put our tyre on. I did sand the back of the tyres just to make sure they were nice and flat. And we pop that on there like that. And then we want to make sure that we don't have any gaps. So to do that, just to give it a bit of help, I'm using some of these little clamps. And long-time viewers will know what I think of these clamps. I use these a lot. They're very strong clamps, and for a lot of things they're possibly a bit too strong. But for things like this, they are absolutely perfect. So just clamp that like that, and then we'll just put it to one side and let it dry. And then do the last one. Sometimes if you buy the Revel starter kits, they give you a bottle of this glue with it. That's where I got most of these from. I've got loads of these bottles of Revel contactor. So if you're thinking about getting some, you might be better off just going and buying yourself a Revel starter kit if you can find one cheap somewhere, because it might be cheaper in the long run than actually buying just a bottle of paint on its own, or a bottle of glue rather on its own. Pop that on there. And the nice thing is, these clamps, when I bought them, came in a set of 8. So there's enough to do all 4 wheels. There you go. We'll let those dry and go on from there. Right, now we'll do the interior. So there's the dashboard. I just did a couple of little spots of colour on it just to liven it up a little bit. We need the rear seat. So we'll put some glue on there and some glue on there. Now these seats, you see they have a cutout that only go in one way. Like that and like that. And then the dashboard. That goes like that. And I think what we might do for this is we'll put some glue on the back of here and on the back of here. And then pop that in like that. There we go. Then we want the rear seat, so we want some glue. Here and here. And if you remember, it's quite handy in the instructions. It actually tells you where to put the glue, which I think is actually quite a clever idea for a starter kit. It's like give you every chance to get it right, sort of thing. Right, and then we'll put a little drop of glue on the steering column and pop that in there. Probably should do this with tweezers actually, hang on. Oh, there we go. Let's straighten that up for the OCD amongst us. now I need to put these in. That goes in like, oh, get in there. Oh, it needs to go under the seat. I should have put the seat in last. There we go. Like that. Put one on the other side. There we go. Right, and then we'll put a little drop of this on the front. And make sure that's in the right place. Right, make sure those are in the right place at the back. And a little drop of glue there. And there. Right, now we'll let that dry. And then we can start assembling the underside of it. Right, when it comes to fitting the rear bumper, it's a bit tricky and you want to be careful not to damage the paint. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove part of this block here, like that. And the same on the other side. Because basically what you need to do is, because it has to conform to the shape of the body, so you want to put the back in first and then pop it down like that, you see, because it actually kind of wraps around the body. And if you don't trim it a little bit, it won't fit properly. You can get it in. I did dry fit it earlier and it does go, but you have to kind of force it, and I'm just concerned about damaging the paint. So I'll just do it like this instead. And then we'll just put a little drop of solvent on either side, and that should help it just go in like that, you see. The front one's easy, the front one just kind of slots in, so. But yeah, the back one can be a little bit tricky. So, right, I think we can now start on the underside. So we'll just flip this over. Now I've got to think how this goes together. Probably look at the instructions really, shouldn't I? I can't even remember where I put them. Right, so the axles go in first. No glue on the axles. Because apparently they need to turn, but they probably won't. But then this belly pan goes on. And what I want to do is put a little bit of that on there, just a touch, because we don't want to bind up the axle. And we drop this in at the front and the back. It does fit into this in between the body, so it does actually fit reasonably well, although it is, as you can see, slightly twisted, which is helpful. That's nice. That's popped out of there now. Get back in there. I think what I'll do is I'll leave that back to dry first, and then I'll clamp the front down. And hopefully by that point we should be ready to do the rest of it. Right, while we're waiting for that chassis to dry, we'll try and get this body finished off. So one thing I've done is I've just given the inside of the glass a coat of X19 smoke, just to give it a little bit of a tint, because I always think it makes that glass look a little bit more realistic. So this rear one isn't too bad, it just kind of pops in. I just want to try and get it in there without touching anything too much. All right. That's not quite in place. That goes like that. And it does require a little bit of brute force and ignorance, but we'll be all right. There it goes. Alright, and that goes like that. And to be honest, that doesn't need any glue, that will just stay there. Now for the windscreen, which I have also tinted. And now that should fit nicely in there. Alright, now for the hilarious bit, we need to glue that in. So I'm going to use this methyl ethyl ketone solvent, and basically you just want to just a little touch on each side, like that. That'll be more than enough to hold that in. And now don't touch anything. I was going to put the front grille in as well, but we'll do that later. The front grille fits quite nicely, so we'll just put a drop of glue on each of the 3 uprights and then pop that in. We also need to do the headlight glasses, but we'll wait until the windows dry before we do those. Right, let's get this grille put in. So what we're going to do is try not to touch any of the chrome. And we're going to put a drop of glue there, and a drop there, and a drop there, and then hopefully this will just pop in. Oh, come on. There it goes. Right. I'd say that a lot of the parts on this kit fit together quite well. I did have some trouble with the chassis. That was slightly twisted, which seems to be a very common thing with models. I don't know what it is. But for the most part, this kit has actually gone together pretty well. So, you know, it's got that going for it. But anyway, we'll let that dry. I've got to put the headlight glasses in, but I've actually made a little change to those. So we'll see that in a minute. So hopefully by the time that's dry, the chassis will be done and we can put the body on. We're not far from being done now. Right, this chassis is now dry enough for us to continue. The only thing we need to put on now is the the drivetrain. So there's basically 2 pins, and I think that's going to be all it needs. So what we'll do is we'll put a little drop of glue there, and a little drop down there, like that. And then the way this goes on is you basically slide it in under the chassis or under the front cross member and then drop it into place. I'm not sure if that back one's actually gone in properly. Oh, there it goes. Right, I'll just hold that for a minute because this exhaust keeps wanting to spring out, but that went in fairly well. Stay. I'll hold that for a minute. And then I think we can put the headlight glasses in, put the body on, and we're done. Haha, easy. Right, so the last thing we want to do on the body is fit these headlight glasses, which, as you can see, I have painted yellow. I just used this X24 clear yellow. I don't know what it is. I've got this thing about yellow headlights. I think it's a very 70s thing. But anyway, now to fit them, I'm going to use this. This is a pickup tool, and it's basically a little metal rod with a blob of stuff on the end. It's like I think it's silicone rubber or something, but it's very slightly tacky, and it's used to pick things up. This one has lost its stick. And I'm going to try something here, just as an aside. Someone told me, there was a comment a long time ago when I mentioned this wasn't working very well. And they said if you just basically run it on a piece of masking tape, that will, A, get the dust off, if there's any dust on it, and it will bring back its stick. So I'm just going to try this and see if this actually works. It'll be interesting to see if it does or not. So this might be the tip of a lifetime, or it might be nonsense. But we'll see. Right, let's see what that does. Now I have done a little bit of test fitting with these, and they're not the greatest fit, but we'll see how we get on. So oh, I don't know, maybe it has worked. Might just need to do a bit more on the tip. Stop laughing at the back. Right, now let's see if we can get this in here. These are not the best fit. No. Might need a bit of brute force and ignorance to get that in there. Right, I think that's just about in. And again, the same as the windscreen, I'm just going to use a tiny drop of this solvent to hold it. That was way too much. Okay, right, let's try and get the other one in. Oh, try and get it the right way up would help. That does not want to go in. This is the tricky bit with these. I would say if you're doing this with a child, you might even want to leave these off. Because they're going to need a lot of scraping and things to get them to fit properly. That one does not want to go in at all. Right, a bit of brute force and ignorance, and it seems to be kind of in. Oh. Right. Phew. So now we need to put the body on the chassis and we'll be done. Easy. Right, now, oh actually I've got to put the wheels on as well, haven't I? Not just the body. But anyway, let's see if we can get this body on. Now I have dry fitted the body a few times before and it actually went on really well, but that was without everything else there as well. That doesn't look terrible. You see, this is what I like, is the fact that the bumpers hide most of the sort of crimes. There's a little bit at the back there, but that's not the end of the world. Okay, let's see if we can get this glued in without too much horror. Right, and I think what we'll do is we'll put the glue on the inside of the wheel well. Like that. And then what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of tape on that, I think. So we'll push that together. And then we'll just put a little bit of tape on there. And that will hold that very nicely. And we'll do the same at the front. So we'll put some glue in here, like that. Yeah, that'll work. And then we'll put a little bit of tape on that. Like that. And then we'll put a little bit down this sill. There is a little bit of a gap there, but it's not terrible. Right, so what we'll do is we'll put some glue in there and some glue in here. And that should hold that. And now we'll do the same on this side. So get that like that. That has nicely closed up that gap. We like that. Right, I've got to be careful not to stick this onto that chrome. Right, that can stay like that. And then we'll do a little bit at the back here. Like that. And we'll push that in, push that together. And put a bit of tape on that. And not get it on the door handle. Right, we'll let that dry for a while and then we'll put the wheels on and then I think we can wrap this up.
And here is our finished article. I put the wheels on, as you can see. The wheels actually went on very nicely, I must say. And I think that kind of sums up this kit. It's got some flaws. You know, there's some mold lines and things like that. But on the whole, it goes together very well. It's got some lovely detail on it. And I know I keep banging on about it, but I'm particularly impressed with those wiper arms. I think they look amazing. So yeah, I think Airfix has done a pretty good job with this kit for a starter kit. It could be better, but it's certainly not as bad as some of them that are out there. But hopefully you've all enjoyed this video. You know, obviously we've done a bit of a deep dive on this video into you know, preparation and things like that. If this is something you want to see more of, then let me know in the comments. And on the same score, if it isn't, let me know in the comments. But hopefully you've all managed to get something out of this. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank my top tier patrons, Howard, Amy and Hawaii Clive O, for their continued support. And I will see you all on the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.